Hello and welcome to the shed. My name's Luke and in today's video we're going to be talking about clamps. So when it comes to clamps, obviously the very first one we should be looking at I think is F-clamps. Now one of the reasons these are pretty much included in my kit is that they're fairly inexpensive. They provide enough force to bring any joint together that you want. Now there are a couple of different designs when it comes to these. This one's ribbed here. Some of them actually have a little catch that spring loads onto the bar to allow you to move it. This one doesn't. This one comes up and just acts on a little cam. So as you put force here, it cams this down here. So this is cammed down. That's how you get the jammed force in any spot. But it still does clamp parallel up here, which a lot of the cheaper ones don't. But this one is actually quite good, which is why I decided to go with these style of F-clamps. Now, these ones are only 200mm. They come right up to at least 900mm. I'm not sure if they actually make this design anymore, because the one thing that you have problems with these when you start clamping over a large distance is these beams here, if they're not strong enough, they flex, and that can throw the entire clamp out of sort of where you want the pressure to be. So that's the F-clamp, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different brands in that, so do sound off what F-clamps you use down below, because if there's better quality ones than these ones that I've got, which were just from the local TimberCon store here, they were their stock brand, so they might have been Takota, which is just their stock brand, so I'm not sure if there's anything better out there, and if this design is found anywhere else. On from that, I'm moving on to the aluminium sash clamp. These ones are called Iron Grip. These ones used to be an okay price, but like everything these days, especially here in Australia, these are actually quite expensive now, so I don't think they're quite as competitive as they once were, but they are still cheaper than your parallel jaw clamps and all that. So these are called a aluminium sash clamp. We can see that this part moves around a bit. They're not the best. These are actually cast iron, I believe, heads on this. Now, the one thing that these are not great at is, because they're open channel that you can see here, which is actually filled with a piece of pine, which is a retrofit that Paul Sellers suggested makes it better. And it does make them work a lot better. The problem you have with these is, if they don't have that timber in there, they would twist. Because they're an open square channel, they would twist here and flex. And so the pressure that's meant to be applied evenly up here, if they flex without that retrofit, it didn't clamp parallel or add proper pressure, so to go like this, and you couldn't actually put proper pressure on what it was that you were clamping. So if you do end up with some of these, or you've got some of these, cut a piece of pine down and you just run that in there. So you're just running it now just to get in behind these little pieces here, and you just hammer it all the way in. You can put some soft jaws on these, but I found they just fell off. I've used all sorts of adhesives, even contact cement, and it still pulls off, and I think it's because it's painted, so I think that paint would have to be removed for it to stick properly. So that is the aluminium sash clamp. Now, the other clamp that I've had a lot of use out of, and goes back a long way, is the wooden screw clamp. Now, the original wooden screw clamps, well, they had wooden screws, and they didn't have as much rocking here, because they would have a threaded hole here and a threaded hole here. So one of the screws went all the way through to hold them, and then the other one was added at the back to add pressure. And so this is the modern take on it, and it uses just a little swivel barrel nut in there, which allows these to clamp, as you can see here, at all sorts of weird angles and shapes. So you can apply where you want, and you can hold all sorts of shapes with it, and that's why I have these. They're really great for holding odd shapes, and you can stick them down here, and if you've got another wooden screw clamp, you can clamp it here. And then what I tended to do was use my hold fast, and so you could actually hold it up on your workbench here to hold things. Get them up higher, working with little objects and stuff, that they're great for that. You can also use them for actually holding boards on end on top of your workbench and all that sort of thing. It's a very valid screw clamp to actually have, or clamp to have if you don't have a face vise or you are operating on top of the bench and you want that quick move in and out. You can actually just use these for that, and it does work quite well for that. Mentioning holdfast, that is my next mention, the holdfast. Although the holdfast, not a clamp per se, it does do clamping actions and is very valuable around the workbench, and if you can get it set up portable, you can use these portable, and that's something that I'm working on with the tool chest. I want to try and work out how I can use at least one holdfast, maybe two, in the lid of the toolbox, and that's another video that'll come up before we actually build the tool chest, so I can get some of your ideas. So these ones are the Gramercy ones. This one's just a pair of cast ones that I just got from a local woodworking blacksmith place that was selling them. These are for a 3/4 inch hole on your workbench. The original ones that you could get, 1 inch hole. There are some other holdfasts that you can get that have other threaded bits, but I prefer these nice short ones, especially for portability, and they work well, and there's no chance of you snapping these. You can get some smaller cast ones that are, I think they're cast welded or something, and they've got a weakness on the top where if you hit them, they could break. So that's just something you got to bear in mind. If you do get cast iron holdfast, they can break if you're not careful. But I do know that Pony Jorgensen actually has some cast ones, and I've heard mixed reviews about whether they're good or not. So I suppose it depends how careful you are with them. But I think they're invaluable for quick work holding, especially at the workbench. And if you can work them out portable, as I suggested, I think they're invaluable to have, because just a quick tap with a hammer. So the way they work is you put them down here, hit them with a hammer. Now, what happens down inside here is this top end pushes against the top of the hole, the bottom end under your table pushes against the inside edge, and so it's canted on an angle between there, and it jams it. And to release it, tap it here and you're cancelling that. And so it adds pressure here, so it's sprung in there, holds it there, and that's how they work. It's a very simple, quick and easy design, but you do have to have thick enough depth to operate these, and that's part of the problem. The 1 inch ones require a much thicker bench. These ones operate, I think you can get them to operate in about 70 mil, so I believe that's what it was. Don't quote me on that one. You'd have to check that one up for yourself. Now, I don't know how easy these ones are to get here in Australia anymore, or how expensive they are, because the cost of a lot of this stuff has really skyrocketed recently, and obviously I don't know about other parts of the world. So if you could sound off with prices and various products down below, that'd be great. So that's pretty much what I use for clamping. When it comes to these aluminium sashes, I have this one that I think was about 600, and I have another one that goes up to about 900. So I don't tend to clamp stuff that's too long, and you can sort of hook these together to clamp over longer distances. Although not ideal, it does get you done if you need something that's a little bit wider. Obviously, with a smaller workshop, I'm not clamping stuff together that's too wide, but you know, I can clamp outside, and so I have used these clamps to extend my clamping distance. Now, the only other thing that I do use is wedge systems for clamping occasionally. I did do a video on that a couple of years ago, so I'll leave that down below. And there is another makeshift clamping system that you can actually build that's quick and easy and flexible for whatever project you're doing. And so if you'd like to see a video on that, do leave that link down below and I could make that video for you. So what I'd love all of you out there in YouTube land to do is sound off in the comments as to what clamps you use. If you could include maybe the region and some prices, that'd be great, just to help everyone out when they look at it. They know where you're talking for those sort of clamps. And while you're down there, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, hit the big red subscribe button, hit the bell and select all so you don't miss out on any notifications. And if you'd like to see the video that spurred this video, the Traveler's Toolkit, you can find that right here. Bye for now.